Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Public Market, coming from designers Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz, and publisher Talon Strike Studios. In Public Market, you are fishermen, and you are going out into the ocean, and you are trying to catch fish that you can then take to market, fulfill public contracts, get some daily catch bonuses, trying to get some crabs onto your ship for some bonus points. It's all about points. It's all about fishing. Let's head over to the table. I'll show you generally how the game plays. Then we'll come back here and I'll let you know what I think about it. Okay, here we see a sample setup for Public Market, and for the purposes of this, let's assume that this is a three-player game. That really only matters when you're looking at particular elements of setup like these tiles. Have a 2- and 3-player side and then a 4- and 5-player side. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm really only going to focus on one color here, which let's assume I'm playing as blue. All right, well, in this game, you are going to be playing through a series of rounds that are each going to have 4 phases. The phases are bidding, then action, where you're either going to be fishing or going to the market, then repopulation, and navigation. You're going to do this over a series of rounds. You're going to know when the final round is triggered, when all of the fish tiles have been drawn out of this bag. Down here in this lower location, this is known as the ocean, and you've got 4 columns of 5 tiles that are going to be representing fish that you are catching from the ocean. All right, so in the first phase of every round, which is bidding, you are going to be taking your little fisherman here. I'll show you mine. You're going to be taking your little fisherman here, and you're going to be placing it along the top. You're going to be bidding, okay? And so there are different sections on this board. I'll bring it up a little closer so you can get a better view of it here. If you go into this first spot, it doesn't cost you anything to go there, but you get no scrap. Scrap are these single fish tiles that are representing these different types of fish. If you go into the appropriate spots, you're going to not only go first in turn order, because the person in the rightmost place of this board will be the first to choose whether they're going fishing or to the market, and they'll be in first on either one of those corresponding locations. And you're also going to get a scrap for the type of fish, but you're going to pay for it. So if I wanted to go to the herring spot, I would pay 4, take a herring scrap, and then depending upon the other players, that would determine my turn order. You notice this little notation right down here, which what this is stating is that if you want to go to a location that another player is, you can do that, but you're going to be behind them. If you want to go in front of them, you have to pay $1 to them. If there are 2 other players and you wanted to go in front of both of them, you'd have to give them each $1 to get first in turn order here in the herring, although someone potentially could still be ahead of you in the other spots, okay? So that is the bidding section or portion of the round where you're going to be potentially, let's say I went here to the herring spot, as I mentioned, I'd pay 4. You start the game with $12, so I can put my 5 in and get 1 change, and now I'm in that spot. I would also take a herring scrap, and I would place that to the side of my ice chest. Every player starts with one of these ice chests. They are double-sided. There's some slight differences in the orientation of particular items on there, but otherwise they're pretty much all the same. And then other players would take their turn. So let's assume that the other players had gone left of me here in their spots, and so I would be first in turn order during the action phase. So I could choose either to fish or go to market. There would never be really a reason to go to the market on the first turn, because really the only thing that I would be able to sell would be this 1 scrap of herring, and that's not going to be very profitable. So I would go over here to the leftmost spot in fishing. Other players would go in accordance to turn order, where they wanted to go. All right, so when you go fishing, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be choosing a tile from the row, or excuse me, the column that is below where the boat is, and the boat starts in the leftmost column. So I would have access to any one of these 5 tiles, and I would then place it and my scrap token in my ice chest. All right, so let me just kind of show you how this might work. Let's say I wanted to do something like this. I wanted to take this tile, this little tile, and that and my scrap are going to go on the in my ice chest. So a couple of things. There are 2 ice blocks that you see here. Those can never be covered. You can never cover those up, but they do count as a covered spot when you are kind of evaluating other aspects of the game that I'll talk about in a minute. So one of the things you can do is you can cover up the crab, you can cover up, and you do want to cover up these shrimp, but you can never cover up those ice blocks. Now, I try, and I think most players will try not to cover up the crab because you get a bonus if you can surround the crab completely, and that includes these ice chests. As I said, those count as a covered spot. Now that means diagonally, so if I did this, I wouldn't quite be able to get the crab bonus yet because that block is still uncovered. If I later was able to get another tile there, if I've dropped it, then I could claim a crab bonus, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So let's just say for the purposes of discussion that I had done this and I had done this, okay? What I would then do is I would track that on my catch tracker. I've got 2 herrings, so I would move my little fish marker up to the 2 there. I've got 1 sardine and I have 1 salmon, okay? So I'm tracking that with my little fish on my fish tracker here. So if you do completely surround a crab, you would take one of these little crab meeples that you get and you'd place it in your crab's cot area of your board. That's going to give you a bonus at the end of the game. 1, 3, 6, 10, up to 15 VP if you get all 5 of your crab bonuses in that spot. So that's why you might want to surround rather than cover that crab. You also want to cover up all 3 of the shrimp if you can, because then you can claim a shrimp bonus, which you track right over here. There are 4 little bonuses that you can trigger by covering up your shrimp that you could then kind of turn in at any point on your turn to do things like let you grab any scrap you want, or to fish in a column other than the one where the boat is, or just take $5, or you can have a little private fish locker where you can keep fish and then place it later into your ice chest. So all of these are little bonuses that you can claim by claiming a shrimp bonus by covering these up. So after everyone has taken their action phase where they fish or go to market, let's assume other tiles had been chosen by other players, what you're then going to do is repopulate the ocean. And how that works is that any tiles that were not taken get removed. You're going to refill the ocean with 5 more tiles. So I'll just go ahead and place these out here really quickly. And then the player that was last in turn order in that round, let's say somebody had been over like in the 3rd spot, they're going to then choose where this boat goes. This is called navigation. They're going to choose where this boat goes for the next round. So let's say they wanted to shoot all the way over here. They're spying one of these particular tiles that works well for them, okay? The only other thing to talk about here really then is the market action, because otherwise you're going to continue to just, if you go fishing, you're going to continue to do just what I've shown you. You're going to get tiles. You're going to be placing them in your ice chest. And I'm of course picking ones that don't really work right now. But let's just say I'd done something like this. And I had done, I'm going to grab a couple of these just to kind of show you I'd gotten my shrimp bonus there. And let's say I had also been able to do this so I could get my crab bonus. All right. I would also have adjusted all of these. Let's make this reflect how it shows here. I've got 3 sardines, I've got 3 herring, I've got 2 cod, and 1 sardine. Okay, so this reflects what's currently in my ice chest. Now, let's say that I had gone to market. This is where you're now going to be selling these fish. Also, when I covered all 3 of those shrimp, let's say that I had claimed a shrimp bonus. All right, maybe the one where I can fish anywhere I want. When you go to market, there is a kind of a multi-step process on what you have to do, okay? The first thing that you're going to do is you are going to look for completed contracts, all right? Well, you would look for your crab bonus first, and let's say, yes, I had gotten one. Then you're going to look at these contract cards. You've got what are called today's catch cards, and you've got these public contracts, all right? These are contracts. These are things that the people are looking for that you are trying to fulfill. So you can look at the cards here on display. These are going to stay in play for the whole game. And if you are able to fulfill those contracts, you can do so by adjusting the amount of fish. So, for example, this public contract is looking for 1 sardine, 1 herring, 1 cod, and 1 salmon. All right? The ones further along are looking for more. 6 sardine, 2 herring, 1 cod, and 3 salmon. The bonuses are better for the ones that obviously take more fish. So let's say, for example, I just wanted to go for this one. 1 sardine, 1 herring, 1 cod, and 1 salmon. I would go ahead and I would adjust accordingly on my board, move those down. Okay, I have fulfilled that contract. Then I would take one of my lighthouses here and I would place it either into one of these spots or onto one of these 4 spots. Okay, and then once it's placed there, it cannot be covered by anyone else again. So, a couple of things. You could choose any of these. These are end game points. Okay, 5, 3, 3, 1. So, why wouldn't you always just go to the 5? And maybe you would. Well, the reason why is that these other ones give you bonuses. So they give you fewer points at the end of the game, but they give you some bonuses. This gives you a permanent sardine. I'll show you how that works in a moment. This allows you to gain a scrap, all right? This allows you to claim a today's catch card, all right? This would be a sardine scrap, for example. So let's say that I wanted to go here. At the end of the game, I would get 3 points, but I get a permanent sardine, and you track that by moving this little cog up 1. So that means that now, for the rest of the game, I have 1 permanent sardine that I don't have to catch. It's just part of my... I have it at all times, okay? And you can do that for all 4 of the fish, although the numbers you can have are going to vary, all right? So you could do 1 public market card, and you could also do one of these today's catch card if you were able to fulfill it. So here, let's say, for example, I have 1 herring and 1 cod. All right, well, I can do that. I move my herring down, I move my cod down, and now I have claimed this card, which is going to do a couple of things for me. This is going to give me a permanent herring. All right, so I move that up. But it's also going to give me one of these symbols, which is going to be used towards set collection at the end of the game. You're going to get points based upon being able to claim sets of these 4 symbols. So right now, and that would be one of the reasons why you would go here, you'd get $3 and you'd get access to one of these 4 symbols at the end of the game. All right? So if I claim that card, I would move my herring up, and then I would have that accordingly to have for the rest of the game. All right? Then what you're going to do is, after you've completed public contracts or today's catch cards, you have to sell your remaining fish for their market value. So sardines are 2 for $1. I've got 2. I'd move that down. I'd get $1 there. Herrings are $1 each, so that would be a $3, and I have no more. I'd go ahead and claim that money, keep it over here, and I'm also going to be looking for completed rows and columns, and you're going to gain a certain amount of money for each completed row and column. Each one's going to give you 3, but it's either rows or columns. So I have 3 completed columns here and only no completed rows. So I would definitely go for the 3 completed columns. That would be $9. I can put a 1 back and claim a 10. All right. So you would do that. Then you're going to clear off your ice board. This is going to go to the bottom of the stack. You'll grab another one off the top, and you can do it to either side. Okay. And then you're ready to go for the next few rounds. You would also replace the today's catch card. All right. Essentially, that's how it's going to go. You're going to keep going through these phases until the bag runs out. Once the bag runs out, you are going to be going into the end day, the last day, and you're going to flip the market card over, or the kind of action tracker, and things are a little bit different. The prices go up, and there's only fishing spots. Otherwise, you're going to be going home and taking one last market action. All right. You're going to total up all your points at the end of the game, crab bonuses, things along those lines. Whoever has the most points is the winner of Public Market. Let's head over and I'll let you know what I think about it. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea on how Public Market plays out. To be the most successful fisherman or fisherwoman, you're going to have to be efficient about gathering the right fish tiles, getting them into place on your ice chest so they gain you bonuses and gain you income that you could then use to even bring bigger turns about further into the game. So first thing I want to do is talk about some benchmarks. These are some high-level ideas that I tend to look at when I'm assessing a game. The first thing is the setup and teardown. Is it a reasonable amount of time to get this game up and going based upon the experience that you have? And I will say that there's a fair amount. As you kind of saw in that overview shot, it was actually difficult to frame it in camera in such a way that you can see everything. There's quite a bit of components that you have to account for, and I only showed you one of the player boards. If you're playing a larger multiplayer game, it's going to take up a tremendous amount of table space, and it is going to take a significant amount of time to set the game up and to tear it down. Now, I will say that the game is not over in 20 or 30 minutes, so it's not a huge issue. If it had been a shorter game, then I think the setup and teardown would have been a little bit more of a kind of a point against it. But in the case of this game, although I do kind of wish that there had been ways to maybe condense the play space a little bit so that it wasn't such a sprawling look on the table. It can be a little bit difficult to set it up and to have players around the table that have still room for their own boards, depending on the type of table you're on. I do wish that it had been a little bit more of a compact space, but for the most part, it's okay. Rules are another thing that I like to talk about, and this is really, I have to say lately, this has been kind of my soapbox. I have felt that many times rules are not as clear as they should be. I think that there needs to be an expectation that you can learn a game solely from the rule book, not expecting people to go on to look for videos or go on to Board Game Geek, for example. And I did learn public market from the rule book, so that's a plus. However, there were some elements of the rules that I felt were less than ideal. There were a fair number of typos that I found and maybe some unclear language. The most unclear aspect of the game, I think, to me, was when they were talking about the final day after all of the fish tiles have been removed from the bag, and when you flip it over and kind of how that plays out. I feel like I understood it eventually, but I had to reread it 3 or 4 times and kind of make sure that I understood what they were getting at. That's one particular example. There were a couple of other times where I felt things maybe could have been worded in such a way to make it less ambiguous. So overall, the rules were a mixed bag. I did learn the game from the rules, and so that's the most important thing, even if things could have been a little bit clearer at times. The other thing I like to talk about is art and components. And first, I'll talk about some things that did not work as well for me, then the things that I appreciated. Overall, I feel like there was inconsistent quality in the components for the game. So, for example, you have cardboard chit money, which is preferable to something like paper money, of course. But this is a little thing, but I did notice it and found it odd. It was inconsistently cut. Some of the denominations had they're basically rectangles, had square corners. Other ones had rounded corners. Does it really matter? No, but it's odd, and I noticed it, and it was inconsistent, so that was something that I just figured I would mention. Also, you have these dual-layer player boards, which are great. I'm a big fan of dual-layer cardboard components when it helps in the usability. However, the little fish tracker tokens, which are cute, don't always slide and fit really well within those. So a little bit of quality control there I felt like was missed. So inconsistent again. Some things I liked, some things I didn't like there. Just inconsistent. On the positive side, I really did like the crab meeples. Those were great. Everyone seemed to enjoy those when I had them on the table. Everyone really wanted to get those crabs onto their board because they kind of liked them. I also like screen printed wooden meeples quite a bit, and there are a number of them here. Another thing about being consistent or inconsistent is that, for example, the blue player color, you have those lighthouses that you place out, and they have white screen printing on those, and they pop. Your captain meeple has black screen printing, and on the blue player colors, you don't really see it. You have to get up really close to see it. So again, slightly inconsistent there, although overall I do like screen printed wooden components, and so I liked those. On the art side, I really do like the art. I like the cover, which you can see behind me here. I like the representation of the fish and the seafood in the game, but I kind of wish there was more of the art, especially on the cards. There's not a whole lot of art. There's not a lot of art throughout the game. What there is, I really like. I just wish there was more of it. Okay, so for the overall game experience, again, I'm going to talk about some things that didn't work as well for me, and then finish up with the things I really did like about the game. First, on the negative side, is that the pacing of the game feels a bit uneven to me. What I mean specifically by that is that during the action phase, which is the main phase of the game, pretty much everything else is going to be kind of clean up and setting up for the next round. The fishing turns are relatively quick. Basically, once you've bid and you're in that fishing turn order, you're just going to go and you're going to take a tile. You may take a little bit of time choosing which tile you're going to get, especially if you've chosen the shrimp bonus that allows you to go from anywhere in the ocean. But for the most part, you've kind of had your eye on 2 or 3 tiles probably, and when it comes to you, you know for the most part what you want to get. So those go relatively quickly. You take your fish tiles, you put them on your board. You adjust your fish tracker. The market turns take significantly longer. And so if you've got 2 players or even just 1 player each round, you're not going to have one in the first round. That can slow things down. And for the people that are taking their fishing actions, they might be sitting around waiting for other people to go through that process of the market action, of getting their fish, claiming the cards, selling off their fish, getting a new board. It just feels a little uneven, and so if it's a fishing turn and you're waiting on 1 or 2 people to take market turns, you feel like there's some downtime there. Overall, I feel like the game feels a little long for what it is, and this is especially at the higher player counts, most especially at 4. I feel like 3 is probably the sweet spot for me in this game. 2 is fine, although you're going to have 2 of your fishermen, and some people might actually prefer that. I like 3. 4 felt too long. I would not even consider playing this at 5. I think you even need to get extra components to do so. I am not interested in playing this at 5. I'd probably rather not play it at 4. 2 or 3, sweet spot for me there. It has a great theme on the positive side. I really do like this theme. I feel like fishing is a theme that has been explored in board gaming, but not it's not an overexposed theme. I feel like it's one that still has plenty of life left into it, and I do like this implementation of the theme. I think it works well, even though it's a polyomino game at heart, although that's not necessarily even the main aspect of the game. It is a main portion of the game. It still works. I like the idea of fitting them into your ice chest. That's kind of cool. Along those lines, kind of talking a little bit more about that. There are a lot of polyomino games out there, and as the last few years have shown us, there's still a market for them. This is a nice addition to it. It does not feel like every other polyomino game out there, and I think part of the reason why is, as I was mentioning before, while it is a big part of the game, it is not the only part of the game. You've got the bidding for turn order, which can be really important. You've got kind of utilizing your shrimp bonuses. You've got set collection going on there. There's more going on in this game than just the polyomino puzzle that you're placing into your ice chest. As a matter of fact, it's not a very challenging puzzle. You can usually get those crab bonuses if you want to focus on them. You can usually get those shrimp bonuses if you want to focus on them, and why wouldn't you? They're not terribly challenging to kind of get, but you can be more efficient at it. That's really where the kind of the puzzle comes, is doing it in the most efficient manner possible. So it's a nice addition to the polyomino genre. Doesn't feel like everyone out there. As an overall game experience, I'm going to be rating Public Market a 7 out of 10, a seal of approval. I feel like it does enough well to make it something that I can recommend, especially if you like the theme, if you like puzzly games, if you like bidding for turn order. That's always one of my favorite mechanics in board gaming, is bidding for turn order, and that kind of angst that you feel. Am I going to get the order that I want to be in, but am I willing to spend that much money? I like that a lot. And so Public Markets is one that I can recommend. There are a few little issues that I had with it that I already talked about that I feel like knocked it down a little bit from where it could have been, but overall, a recommend. All right, well, that's it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.